Hi and hello, watch fans, and welcome to another edition of the Real Time Show. With me, your friendly neighborhood jeweler, Aloma Joseph, and the friendly neighborhood watchmaker, Rob Nuds. We have in the studio the co-CEO of maybe the most relaxing watch brand. Yeah, a brand that wants you to unwind, to relax, take time slowly. Rainer Eckert, the co-CEO of MeisterSinger. Welcome, Rainer.
Thanks a lot, Alan. It's a real honor to be invited to your shows, and I feel privileged, especially when I look at the line of previous speakers. So thank you very much for the invitation.
The honor and pleasure is definitely both Rob and mine, because you are a veteran in the watch industry. And looking at your track record, I have a very important question to ask you. How relaxing is it to work for privately owned and privately run family business compared to your impressive track record at Richemont and Swatch Group?
It's not so relaxing as you expected, because we have a lot to do. So I changed even the wording. I say, okay, perhaps it's not the relaxed approach to time, but it's more the self-confident approach to time. So, yeah. And I have to say that my personal career, it's strange for me that you say I'm a veteran, because I'm feeling still quite young, but nevertheless, I'm now for almost 20 years in the watch business. Before that, I worked in the high-end audio industry, and my very first job was in a retail store that sold very exclusive high-end components for music lover. And being a music lover myself, since I was a child, it was very easy for me to build relationships with these end users who enjoy luxury products and with a sense of quality and craftsmanship. And since those days, I've been driven by what we call nowadays end consumer centricity. And I have to say, here in MeisterSinger, it's really, really fascinating, because we have a great fan base all over the world. And on the other hand, that gives you a lot of energy and you want to move things.
Thank you for that intro, Rainer. And I definitely want to discuss your journey and experiences in the watch industry. But before we do so, I am very curious to hear the story of a relatively young watch brand, because MeisterSinger was founded in 2001 by pianist Manfred Brassler in Münster, Germany. Does the name, if I translate it, it's a MeisterSinger. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. You're right. MeisterSinger was founded in 2001 here in Münster. It's in the northwestern part of Germany. And Manfred, back then, he started as a one-man show. And to this day, he's my co-CEO of the brand. And we are private owned and owner managed and independent. And we are proud about that. And he took his inspiration from the origins of watchmaking. Perhaps you know it, until the 18th century, all watches were single-hand watches. So think of the sundial or an obelisk. So in a way, these were actually the very first single-hand watches, with which people began to measure time some 6,000 years ago. And Manfred wanted to create a watch reduced to its essentials, but not just concerning the single hand. So the other inspiration came from measuring instruments. He wanted to have a watch with the appearance of a measuring instrument, and he created a watch face that, in my opinion, couldn't be clearer, calmer, and more balanced. And the name MeisterSinger, it's really a great story. He picked up the name from an opera from a famous German componist, Richard Wagner. And there's a opera called Die Meistersinger von Nürnberg. And in this opera, Wagner tells the story of a singing competition. And the one who was the best able to reach a new tone was crowned to be a Meistersinger. So Meistersinger to us is kind of an attribute for excellence and uniqueness. And in a way, Meistersinger also brought a new tone to the watch industry.
I like that angle very much. I think it's a wonderful story to tell. I think it's brilliant branding. It's a lovely character to start out with. But one thing I'm very interested in specifically is the actual design of these watches, because having one hand, being the brand known for having one hand, is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it sets you apart from most brands, I would say. Some people have maybe done one hand as a novelty, but very rarely as a core element of a collection. But on the other hand, it restricts you with what you're actually able to do in terms of design. So tell me first, how are the watches designed? Are they designed in-house by a team, or do you work with external designers?
Manfred Bassler, our founder, is still the mastermind and designer of our watches. And he's an unbelievable creative mind, and not only a watch designer. He's composing classical orchestra works, and he makes fascinating drawings, and he plays the piano quite well. And so the design is completely made in-house. And, the beginning of the timekeeping was around 6,000 years ago. And the first mechanical timepieces in the 14th century all were equipped with a single hand. And even at that time, the mechanics simply weren't good enough to display the time to the minute or even second, but it was sufficient for the people at that time. And the clocks marked the passing of the day, when it was time to rest or when to finish work in the evening. And you can find many single-hand church tower clocks even today. Perhaps you know it. One of the most famous is on Westminster Abbey in London. So I would say we have a watch concept with substance. And the single-hand watch is not a design gimmick. It's on the contrary. It has been completely sufficient for the vast majority of human history. And today we demonstrate how beautiful it is to experience time in this way.
I wouldn't say it's a gimmick per se, but obviously you're drawing on a vast majority of time. Human history didn't have the to-the-second society that we have today. So it's very different. It stands out because it does require people to not need the same level of immediate legible accuracy, which is a nice thing. It certainly is in step with some of the higher values of watchmaking. The idea, if you can afford a luxury timepiece in the first place, you probably aren't so beholden to the watch on your wrist. But again, I want to go back to the process. Most of your movements, although not all of them, I believe, are bought-in calibers. So how does the design process work? Do you look at the calibers that are available to you and then design around them, or is a concept first born and then you see how you can fit it into what exists and what modifications you might need to make to the movements you're able to access?
First of all, it's the idea. So the creative process is always the first step. But I give you an example. And we have our Bell Aura with a chiming module, a sonnerie en passage, a quite forgotten complication. And the first considerations for this module dated back in 2016, when we started to finalize the first drawings of a completely different watch. It was called Saltora, with a jumping hour module. And at that time, our watch technician remarked that we could also make the watch chime rather than jump on the hour. And we came back to this idea many years later. And instead of driving an hour disc, the release lever should strike some kind of bell or tuning fork. And the sound we produced at the top of every hour is alerting that a new hour is beginning, and that on a very elegant and decent way. And perhaps you can hear it because I'm wearing this watch. This is what you hear at the full hour.
It's a beautiful tone. It really is. Very nice. MeisterSinger tone, as one might say. I don't look at the collection and feel like you've been limited by the concept and the adherence to the concept yet. But does it ever feel frustrating in a way to be working with a canvas that is quite predefined? You're not like many brands that are able to, often to their discredit, actually change direction. You have a very fixed aesthetic. Is that something that comes up in conversation often behind closed doors?
Not really. What is important for us is to emphasize that a MeisterSinger is a highly precise measuring instrument from a mechanical standpoint. And for example, to prove this, we even released a watch with a hand for the seconds just for participating in the precision tests at the laboratories of the Swiss COSC, just to show that our watches, even if they are single-handed, are highly precise. That is something what is not so easy to demonstrate with a single-hand watch, so we needed the second hand. When it comes to the design aspects, I think we can expand our target groups, because so far our main focus has been on classic, elegant watches designed mostly for men. However, what defines MeisterSinger, in my opinion, is not gender specific, and it transcends age, culture, and different wearing preferences. So I think we have a lot of opportunities to enlarge our target groups, even with single-hand watches only.
I do think that that's a very good point, because in the single-hand concept really lends itself to smaller watches as well, because the dial is always going to be uncluttered. Do you think about doing more futuristic designs as well, something edgier perhaps, that just takes the old-fashioned concept into a very new-fashioned era?
Perhaps later. So the next steps is really to expanding the target groups. I just mentioned the gender. Today we are very focused on classical watches for men. So the next step will be women's watches, and even the wearing preferences. I think it's very important for a lot of brands to take in consideration that the wearing preferences changed in the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years. So the dress watch segment, in my opinion, is getting smaller, and a lot of people, even doing business, are more casual dressed, and so wearing preferences changed, and I think that is the next step also for MeisterSinger.
You guys are going so fast, I want to hold you both in your tracks. Let's go to 2001. Design. I feel, and I believe the first model was the Neo, and if that's correct, I feel Bauhaus vibes there. Am I good to feel that?
The first model was the number one. So I would say that the number one is the inaugural MeisterSinger and true icon, and the number one embodies all aesthetic principles that continue to shape the entire collection to this day. So this very balanced and reduced design, inspired by measuring instruments. That is one of the design roots of MeisterSinger. And the other one are the single-hand watches of the 18th century, so the pocket watches and all these historical timepieces, what is also one of our DNA roots.
And looking at the number one, what was also different was that you've used 0, 1, 0, 2, so double digits for all the hour markers. What was the philosophy behind that?
Came from the inspiration of measuring instruments, because if you look at analog mechanical measuring instruments, they are quite often using double digits, and on the other hand, it gives a balanced and new aesthetics on the dial. We have these 5-minute marks, and then a little bit longer the quarter-hour marks, and then even a little bit longer the half-hour marks, and then the hour barrels. And all this together, it looks so easy and so reduced. But, that is one of the most difficult things to reduce it to the max. But if you would leave even one aspect on the design of the dial, it would not work. So that is, I would say, one of the really great ideas Manfred had was the design principles of our dials.
If my memory functions well, I remember there were 2 hand watches for a brief time. Would you ever make them again?
You're right. MeisterSinger did in the beginning also 2 and 3 hand watches, but the experience was that they were not so successful. Everybody was asking for the single hand watches because that is unique. That is something different. That is a new tone, what MeisterSinger brought into the watch industry. And so the brand focused on single hand watches only. And we will stay in this direction. So no, there are no plannings to do conventional 2 or 3 hand watches. We always want to be special.
So when Rob was referring not to the accuracy of the movements, but the legible accuracy, is that an issue for consumers? So for our listeners that are not that familiar, you basically have a hand that slides around and you need to guess how many minutes in theory it is because you don't know exactly. So have you encountered those problems in consumer behavior?
You have to explain it, that how a single hand watch works and how you can read the time. And with our single hand watches, you can read the time nearly exact by the minute, I would say by 2 minutes, because our dial shows 5 minutes, and between the 5 minutes you are 2 minutes. And I always explain it to end consumers. It's much easier to read a dial with only one hand. And honestly, most of us, it's more used to read indicators, analog indicators with only one hand. For example, if you're sitting in your car and you're looking at your ref counter or your speedo, it's all single hand indicators. And there's a reason why, because you can read it easily. You don't have to calculate or make the combination of 2 hands. You can see at your speedo if you're driving 58 or 62. And perhaps you're not realizing, is it 58 or 57? But it's not important. The most important is that you realized you are into the speed limit or you're speeding. So, and if you look at our watches, you can easily see if you are on time or if you're late.
I mean, it's okay with speedo because you've got a single digit reference there. And when you're talking about speeding or not, you have a limit that you know the indicator can't go past. So you don't need to know when you're driving if you're going 58.5 miles per hour, but you do need to know if you're going more than 60, for example. So it's not quite the same as when a train leaves at 12 minutes past 3.
That's true.
And you're looking at the watch, so that's my response to it. I'm not trying to dig holes in the philosophy, because I think that the whole point of MeisterSinger is really more about a feeling and a concept and a different relationship with time and taking a step back from that hustle and bustle. But I don't expect, as you've already intimated, wasn't the case, that customers would come to you and say, oh, well, you do a 2 or 3 hand watch, because they have plenty of options elsewhere in the market. And the only brand that is known for doing what you do is you. So you have a USP. That, I think, is really the justification for everything, for sticking with the concept and for not going back to those 2 or 3 hands, because your brand is so easily definable. And I guess in some ways that helps when it comes to the communication strategy that you put out there into the world. But does it also sometimes force you to really, really work hard to differentiate a novelty from a previous model? Because when other brands go out there and, they just have more elements that they can play with. They could make a second-hand orange, for example, and it's visually very distinct from the previous pieces. When you go out there with a new full-page ad in a magazine that is not a cheap thing to invest in, how do you create an atmosphere about a novelty that differentiates it from a previous piece in the collection?
When it comes to the development of new models, the design aspect is on one hand the most important. So different looks. For example, we introduced now a new watch face in our watches, what reminds the people more to historical pocket watches. So a real historical dial design, and even the hand is more looking like from a 200 years old pocket watch. So a complete different face. And again, I would say the most important for us is even to consider the wearing preferences. So a single hand watch can be sporty. A single hand watch can be a women's watch. A single hand watch can be, for example, if you look in our collection, if we make an indication for a date, to find a different way, we are showing the complete disc, not only a window, or we have a day date with 2 rotating discs, and that gives the watch a complete different face. And so I would say it's very, very a wide range what we can do, and I would say a wide range what we already have in our collection. But let me come back to your example with the train, because it's, in my opinion, it's the only example where we are facing that we say, okay, yeah, you in the normal life, you never have an appointment at 11:13. You have an appointment at 11 or 11:30 or something like that. So yes, the train is one example where you have, let's call it an appointment at 11:13. But would it not be better to be at the track or at the station at 11 o'clock or a few minutes past 11 and not 1 minute before the train is leaving? So it's interesting because it was during the industrialization then when clocks get minute and second hands, because it was when people started to get paid by the hour and the bosses want to know exactly the working time. And this rapid movement kept everyone aware of the passage of valuable time. And then since then, everything has become more complex and complicated. And it was worse, what we call nowadays stress.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I don't disagree with the philosophies of the brand at all. But I'm one of those people that catches a lot of trains. And I had a good example of this on Saturday. I recently subscribed to the Deutschland ticket, which means I'm able to travel around Germany for free on regional trains only. And I was on the way back from Munich to Dresden. And that meant I had to take 5 connections. And oftentimes the connection times were already 4 or 5 minutes between one another. And I'm sure you're familiar with the DB. I was frequently left with a decision to either run, because I had 30 seconds to get from one train to another, or to not bother running. And that makes a difference to me. But then again, I use my watch differently. It's interesting the way you describe it. I actually look at the minutes before the hours, because I think I generally have a sense of where I am in the day more than I do about exactly where I am in the hour. And I don't subscribe to the idea that that's healthy. And I do think that puts a lot of stress on me, and I think it puts a lot of stress on people. And I think that if I were to wear a MeisterSinger, which I don't at the moment, but if I were, it would be the perfect weekend watch. It would be the ideal thing to allow me to sort of step out of the rat race for a moment and to appreciate the slow flowing of the hours rather than the very intense passing of the seconds and the minutes. It's just not how I use a watch. Like when I look at my watch first, I look at the minute hand and immediately I see, okay, it's 36 minutes past the hour. That's brilliant. Like for me, that works for me. But for some people, obviously that isn't necessary. And I think that's interesting because the story is great. The concept is tight. The USP is undeniable. It's obviously going to limit your market. Of course it is. But we all know in the watch world, you don't need to sell watches to everybody. You just need to find your audience. And again, I wonder, like within the collection, although you have a lot of diversity and you've brought other complications into the watches without having to add extra hands, bar the power reserve examples, maybe, you know, the date is there expressed in a creative way, either with a full ring or on the Vintago models, just in a window with, I think, 5 days, maybe expressed near 3:00. I really like that model. I think that's really nice. It's really attractive. It adds a little bit more visual interest to the dial. Is there a plan to bring in more complications and get similarly creative in the way those are expressed on the dial with no extra hands?
That is something we are thinking all the time. What kind of useful indications could we implement in our watches without going too far away from our main concept? So we have internal discussions about power reserve indication with so we need a second hand, or we are using a second hand till now. And we have internal discussions. Is it a single hand watch if you have the second hand for the power reserve? Yes, that is something we are thinking about. What you mentioned about how you use your watch, I would say, you know, when I was used to wear 2, 3 hands, 5 hands watches over 20 years. And when I got my first MeisterSinger on my wrist, it took you, I would say, one day. And I give you an example. I had a very important meeting at the full hour, and I was sitting on my desk and writing emails. And I was looking at my MeisterSinger, and there's one effect with the single hand. If it's 5 minutes to the full hour, it's looking very close. It's looking very close to the full hour. So I didn't start another emails, even if I had 5 minutes left to the next meeting. And that is something our end consumers give us always the feedback. It changed your behavior a little bit. So you're not squeezing out the last minute out of your life. And so I would say it's, is it the relaxed approach? In my opinion, it's a self-confident approach with your own lifetime, that you say, okay, now I have 5 minutes before the next meeting. I don't start the next email or take the next phone call. I'm preparing myself to the next point on my agenda. And that is something, if you make a training for time management, that is exactly what you get out of these trainings. So be focused and give yourself always a few moments between 2 meetings or agenda points.
Going from minutes to hours, I want to go to years. You've spent 6 years at Richemont, 9 years at Swatch Group. Please walk us through your career and journey to the watch industry. What brands did you work with? What did you do? What did you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy up to your point at MeisterSinger?
Perhaps I should explain what brought me into the watch industry and what is my driver. I mentioned that I worked in the beginning of my career in the high-end audio industry. And I get in connection and starting relationships with the target group. So people enjoying high quality products, enjoying craftsmanship. And even in during these days, I discovered my love for mechanical watches, and I was impressed by how the Swiss watch industry survived the quartz crisis and focused more on emotional aspects than technical explanations. In fact, a watch is a technical device that tells the time. And we all know that if we only consider the technical aspects, there has been no reason for mechanical watches for more than half a century. So the fascination of mechanics, the history of watchmaking and its icons, the good feeling of understanding a technique, the romance of time, stars, moon phases, etc., or the appreciation of craftsmanship, all these aspects makes a mechanical watch a symbol to wear proudly on your wrist. And I wanted to learn from the best how a brand builds that fascination. So I wanted to start in the watch industry. And thanks to a friend, I had the chance to start at Richemont. I joined Baume & Mercier, where I worked for almost 7 years before joining the Swatch Group. For almost 10 years, I was for Longines general manager in Germany and part of the board of Swatch Group Germany. And now since 2022, I've been here at MeisterSinger together with our founder Manfred Prössler. And I can tell you, there's a great fascination in MeisterSinger. And the communication and to bring out the fascination, that is what drives me over the last 20 years. And I would say the watch industry is, and the brands in the watch industry are one of the best worldwide to fascinate people, to tell stories, to put the focus on small details. All this I want to learn.
You are a true gentleman, well-spoken, elegant, but this is the real-time show. So I'm going to push you a bit right now. I want to have unpolished answers. What did you like at these big groups? What is it that you liked?
First of all, the professionalism. So they know exactly what they are doing. And that gave me the opportunity to learn a lot in a very short period of time. I give you an example. When I was at Baume & Mercier, the group decided to relaunch the brand. So including corporate identity and corporate design, a new logo, everything around the brand. They made it new. And to see how these people try to see the DNA of the brand and what makes the brand special, and then to translate this into materials, into advertising, into a display, and so on and so on. That was really fascinating for me.
Now you know what the next question is.
No.
So what? See, it's politically correct. So what didn't you like at these groups? Please don't be polite German. Be Dutch.
Dutch?
Yes. Like John van Steen, our dear friend, the past co-CEO, still day one distributor for MeisterSinger in the Netherlands. He still is. Due to health reasons, he resigned from this function that you proudly, and by the listening to you, I think you're doing a good job. But I'm going to ruffle your feathers a bit. So what didn't you like at the big groups?
What I didn't like is, I would say, you're spending a lot of your lifetime in meetings. So another thing is you have to handle what we called politics. So you have to deal all these strategic and political aspects if you want to move on, if you want to develop something, if you want to do business and so on. There are so many aspects what are behind the scenes and not really target driven to fascinate more people about the products. And these political games, I don't miss them. And if I meet my ex-colleagues and friends from the big groups, I say now, I'm on a small island called MeisterSinger, and we have also our difficulties and challenges, but I'm living now on a political free zone.
I congratulate you and I salute you.
Thank you.
Can you be entrepreneurial in these big groups?
Yes, you can be, but you need always, you have to be clever, and you have to have alliances. So you're not a one-man show, and in these big groups, I would say it's perhaps only Mr. Rupert and Mr. Hayek who can decide just from the scratch. All the others in these big groups have to move smart and to find colleagues who support you, and that is something that is a big advantage of a brand like MeisterSinger, or in my opinion, all these independent watch brands, that they can focus on the end consumer. They can listen to the people who love your brand and your watches, and then you can decide directly, fast. And then you have the disadvantage that you have not the industrial background or the financial background. So you have to find ways to realize these projects. But from the inspirational point of view and from the creation of new ideas, you're open. There are no politics, because we have no sister brands and we have no stakeholders and so on and so on. We have no financial department in the big groups. So the decision-making process is easy.
So now you are the CEO at a brand that nothing can hold it back. What do you enjoy the most being at the driving seat at MeisterSinger?
The most, I would say, it's really the focus on the end consumer. So when I started at MeisterSinger, I was traveling around a lot. In my first year at MeisterSinger, I visited 14 countries, and I tried to visit as many retailers as possible in our distribution partners, but most importantly, a lot of end consumers and MeisterSinger fans. And so that we can put the watch enthusiast into the center of all we do, that is for me the most motivating. And then to have a team here in Münster and our production partners in Switzerland, that we bring all these ideas into reality, that is fascinating. So I can only tell you that in the next 12 months you will see a lot of novelties, quite different to the current collection, and these are moments I'm really looking forward to.
You gave me an excellent segue as a retailer to ask you about your retailers, your partners. How important are they to you? Because I think you guys are not only special because you're so famous to being a single hand watch, but I know you'll do a lot to empower your retailers. 2 examples that I can recollect, but maybe there are more that you can educate us about. You create a lot of localized collabs. I believe from very early on, you didn't make national collabs. So talking about a Dutch edition and a German edition in whatever country, but you actually make limited editions on a city level. Second thing I remember is when you guys started with e-commerce. I don't think you have an own mono-brand boutique, but correct me if I'm wrong. You started e-commerce, but you gave commission to your retailers, if I remember correctly. Talk us about that, please.
So yeah, our sales are conducted through specialized retail partners, and we are very pleased to be represented by such retailers worldwide who continually manage to surprise and delight their end consumers, building long-term relationships with them. And yes, these retailers can, by the way, trust that MeisterSinger will neither pursue its own brand boutiques nor prioritize large key accounts. We are continually surprised to discover fans of MeisterSinger even in countries where we are not distributed. And of course, we strive to maintain contact with them no matter where they are located. And we have our owners club, My MeisterSinger. So I truly believe MeisterSinger is a love brand. And that is the best USP also for the retailers. And you mentioned these collaborations. I think that is also something what we love to do. Yeah, you mentioned these limited editions and special editions we make with retailers or countries. And we did last year a very, very special watch. It was the Benjamin Franklin watch. So it was an idea from our distributor for the US market. Benjamin Franklin invented a watch concept, what makes not a 12-hour watch with 360 degrees, but a 4-hour watch. So 360 degrees. Moving the hand means 4 hours are gone. And we saw the designs and loved the concept, and then made the 4-hour Benjamin Franklin watch. And it was not our invention. It was invented by the late Benjamin Franklin, founding father of the US. And so it's more than 200 years old, but still fascinating. And again, I would say it's all about storytelling, about fascination, and not so much about facts and figures in the watchmaking.
You know, I absolutely love that watch. It's my favorite MeisterSinger of all time, not just because I'm a little bit of a student of American history, but also because I just loved the concept. I thought it was really clever. It took what you already had, but took it to a different level. I even reviewed it, I think maybe even for a blog to watch back in the day. It was quite some time ago now. But interestingly, Ben Franklin also spent some time in West Wickham, where I used to live, while working for Bremont. So he's been all over the place in the sort of watchmaking world. He came over here. He was in the caves of West Wickham, not literally living in the caves, but working and writing with his friends over there. And just a stone's throw from where now Bremont, one of Britain's foremost watchmakers, is located. So a lovely one, a really good idea. Do you have any other ideas to do collaborations, market specific or otherwise, in the near future?
Yes. We are working right now on a collaboration, but it's too early to talk about it. But be surprised when you visit Watches and Wonders in 2025, because we decided to join Watches and Wonders, and we feel very honored to be invited by the organizational team. As you know, Watches and Wonders has a selecting committee where Monsieur Dufour, CEO of Rolex, and the CEO of Cartier, and Mr. Stern, and so on, are on the board. And they selected MeisterSinger next to some other brands that we are able to join Watches and Wonders in 2025, and we will present a new face and design of a MeisterSinger watch, and in addition, we will show a design collaboration with one of the most famous watch designers in our industry.
That's amazing. And we're very much looking forward to that. And congrats on the nomination. Well deserved. I think it's a very good addition to the fair, because a while ago we had a very good article about this topic, actually. What challenges does both the brand MeisterSinger encountered in today's climate and you as a CEO?
Can I just say before you answer that question, if it's not Eric Giraud, I'm going to eat my hat.
No, it's not.
You got any bets, Alon?
Actually, I don't. I want to say it's maybe a German one.
No.
Hey, you're close, though. You're close, obviously.
So I kind of hope it's Cedric Bellon.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Nice ideas, eh? I have to write it down.
You know that people call the real-time show the black book of the watch industry. So after we hung up this recording, you can call us.
That is a good... No. I don't want to call you. I want to come into your place that we discuss all this with a nice glass of red wine.
You're more than welcome. You can choose Dresden or Amsterdam.
Great. So biggest challenge, I would say every challenge is also an opportunity. So one challenge is to be seen. So that means in terms of marketing, the watch industry has so many brands, and if you go outside the watch industry, again, if you look at the target group, they're mostly not only interested in watches. So big challenge is to be seen. But on the other hand, you have the opportunity of digital marketing possibilities. We have our owners club established 2 or 3 years ago. It's called My MeisterSinger. What is very, very important for us, that we have a close relationship with our dearest friends and fans to implement them as opinion leaders. And so that is one challenge. The other challenge is for sure more the industrial side, to create new watches, to produce new watches. And you know that the supply chains here after COVID and now with Russia and China and so on, you have many effects, even if your watches are Swiss made, for example, for tools or for machines or something like that. And so there you have challenges, but honestly, we are not so much in trouble because of this. We are a small brand, it's not about quantities at MeisterSinger. That is not our goal. We don't want to be a brand for everybody, and we don't want to produce masses and thousands and 10,000s and 100,000s of watches. That is not our goal. We love to be special, unique, independent, and different.
I found it very interesting about the MeisterSinger, so the owners club. When you say that they're thought-provoking, or you use a different term, but is this a marketing spiel, or do you really listen to them? And will you take their feedback into either the design process or product development?
Our goal is to build up a real relationship with these people. Again, we don't have to handle 100,000 of contacts. We are talking about 2,000, close to 3,000 My MeisterSingers. And yes, we give them an insight behind the scenes, and we implement them in different processes. We started to ask them questions, and we are totally surprised about the share of answers. So if we send them a newsletter, we have opening rates up to 90%. So in average, more than 80% opening rates. So they are really connected with MeisterSinger. And yes, we are just discussing different colors, for example, for dials, or for a new watch, we want to implement a new hand. And, our single hand is for us very important and quite iconic, this needle hand. And for a new project, we want to implement a new design for the hand. And yes, we will give some suggestions to our My MeisterSinger community, and waiting answers from them, what they think is MeisterSinger, but still different.
Okay, one more question before we let you go. We've seen in recent times that several brands have collaborated with one another to create something that maybe they couldn't do on their own. So most famously, perhaps in recent times, the MB&F collaborations with Moser and C have been very popular. Urwerk and de Bethune as well, also only watch stuff. If you could reach out to any other brand in the industry and take MeisterSinger's single hand concept to them and realize it on a platform perhaps created by another brand, which brand would you most be interested in working with? And you can name any of the four I've already mentioned there in case one of those is the answer.
We had some requests about collaboration from different watch brands, but we never had the feeling that it's a perfect fit and really something what brings us to a new audience or target group. So it's quite difficult, this question. Perhaps let me mention two brands. One perhaps should be a brand like Swatch. Why? Not because of the watchmaking, obviously, but to make the single hand concept more popular. Sometimes I'm feeling a little bit lonely. I'm talking for MeisterSinger. Because as I explained, it's a origin of timekeeping. It's more than a few thousand years, and even in the watchmaking history, that all these time indicators and watches were single-handed. And I think it's a pity that the single-hand watch is not more popular even by other brands than MeisterSinger. In my opinion, a collection of a watch connoisseur is not complete without a single-hand watch. It's a must-have from a historical point of view, as well from an aesthetical perspective. And so I would invite more than only one or two brands to join us and to make a single-hand watch in their collections. And so a collaboration with another brand should make the single-hand concept and the meaning behind that more popular.
So Rob said we had a last question, but I really have a last question. You see, we enjoy talking to you, and we love the brand. Manfred is, if I'm counting correctly, in his 70s, and I hope he lives at least to 120. You're independent. Will MeisterSinger be bought? Will it stay independent? Is there a succession? What's the future for the brand?
My goal is to set MeisterSinger on a solid commercial and financial base, so that our products and our markets and our production processes are all well developed. And then We will see. It's not decided yet. Manfred's daughter, Tanja Brasler, is here in the company. He's our marketing manager, and she's getting involved more and more into every aspects, not only marketing, but also in the development processes, in the design processes, in distribution, in everything. And we will see. In the end, it's a decision of Manfred. If he prefer to look for a strategic investor, for example, or if he say, no, we want to be still a family business. I don't think that MeisterSinger will be part of one of the big groups and just sold to anybody. That will not happen. I'm quite sure.
Very good to hear. We love independence and we hope that you retain it for as long as you possibly can. Rainer, thank you so much for your time. It was a real pleasure to talk to you. We've enjoyed hearing more about the single hand concept. If anybody hasn't heard of MeisterSinger, then you can go over to their website and check out the watches, which you can find at www.meistersinger, that's meistersinger.com. If you like this episode and you would like to get in touch with us, or if you have any more questions for Rainer, then you can do so via the usual channels, either via our Instagram handle at therealtime.show, via our emails, either Rob, Alon, or David at therealtime.show, or via the contact form on the website, www.therealtime.show. We'll be back soon with more top quality watch content. Until then, stay safe and keep on ticking.